This is Just Ask George, exploring the universe of corporate finance and capital formation for your business enterprise, with merchant banker George Lovato Jr. and your host, David Wolf.
I'm George Lovato Jr., your host. Normally you see my friend Dave Wolf, my wingman over here, but today we have a special guest in the studio, Ken Zangara, a longtime pal of mine, over 30 years, an industry icon in the automotive industry. He's joining us here today to announce a new product that BH Capital is launching. Ken, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here today, George. I appreciate it.
Good. We're gonna talk specifically about one segment of this new product that we've developed, and it is the part and parcel of being able to sell your dealership, and how it is that we'll take care of that process. But I thought we'd talk a little bit about what makes a dealership successful in today's market. What do you look for when you're looking for a good solid property, a good solid site?
Well, you're looking for a good market, and most markets are, most dealerships are doing very well right now, and that's a good thing. But the automobile business is very cyclical, and of course we may be going through another cycle. We will. Lee Iacocca used to say that every 10 years, you can count it, every 10 years you're going to go through another negative cycle, and the idea is to prepare for those. But if you're thinking about selling your dealership, obviously the perfect time to sell it is when you're on top, like right now, and that's what we're.
What do you typically see in a successful? What are the kind of the metrics?
Well, you look at total sales, the opportunity, the market share. A lot of dealers that when they decide to sell, it's because there may be some pressure from the manufacturer because they're not getting that market share. And we can find them candidates that can come into the store and are pre-qualified and buy the store and improve those conditions. And the timing will never be better than right now.
When we were visiting the other day with an individual that's interested in buying a dealership, he was talking about one of the metrics where of his total service gross, about 80% of it was internal. And you said, wow, that's way too high. You want to talk a little bit more about why that's maybe a metric you don't want to see?
Well, it's because, service absorption is crucial in a dealership, and there are many, many dealerships out there and great dealers that are getting over 100% service absorption. And for those that may not know, that are watching this program or listening to this program, that means that your service and parts and body shop, if you have one, cover all of your expenses, all your fixed expenses if you're at 100%. And when you're mixed at 80% internal and 20% customer pay, that's not a good mix because it's all your own money that you're paying.
Really?
Now it's good to have the internal pay be strong and high and very much a part of the overall income. But you'd rather be at about 70% customer pay, 20 to 25 to 30% internal.
Okay. In terms of, say, a market with 250,000 people in it, we're talking about a relatively small town. It's not a major market, and you've got, say, a Chrysler store there. How many units would they be expected to sell as a single dealer in that marketplace?
Well, that depends on the overall market within about 50 miles, but normally you'd think that their planning potential set by the Chrysler, in this case the OEM, would be about 600 units, 600 new units a year, and you'd like to sell about 1,000 or at least 1-to-1 used to new. But
used to new,
1,000 would be a really profitable situation.
And you've always said that obviously used car sales are always more profitable, i.e. on the front end gross, so on and so forth. In a case like that, how do you evaluate that gross? What is an attractive gross for those used car sales?
Well, right now, I'd say on used cars, an attractive gross with the F&I income, the finance and insurance income, which has been a really moving target lately because federal regulations changing so much regarding F&I products. But anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 front and back end gross would be a really good job on used cars.
In terms of looking at service absorption, we're back to that subject again. Is it more commonplace now in today's market that you see that 100% figure out there?
No.
Or do dealers still strive to do that?
They're still striving, and most of them fall short of it. Mm-hmm. The statements are all different. The General Motors statement from Chrysler and the imports. Chrysler used to not allocate overhead expenses to the departmental net profit. So it's the NADA and the NCM 20 groups do allocate those expenses, fixed expenses, departmental. So you get a much truer picture of what the absorption is. Mm-hmm. But still, there's a store that does a good job on service absorption obviously is much more valuable than one that doesn't. Post
2008 crash, the factories really put a lot of pressure on the remaining dealers, the ones that survived, that they had to spend a lot of money on upgrading their dealerships, doing makeovers, facelifts, increasing and improving their service facilities, et cetera, signage, curb appeal, so on. How much of that has actually been accomplished out there in the marketplace? Do you think are we approaching 75, 80% of them have reinvested in their dealerships?
Yes, I think that's a very close figure.
Is it?
And you and I didn't talk about that prior to the show, but
so I just throw these questions, trying to prove that he's the Mr. Goodwrench of the auto industry.
I think maybe you knew that you knew that 70 to 80%. Yes, I do think that 20% of the dealers have held out and not spent any money on there. However, when they sell the store, they're going to be required the buyer's going to be required to upgrade, obviously,
right,
to get factory approval.
That's kind of a discount back to when they haven't done those improvements to the sale price then, because that means that the buyer is going to have to incur that cost to step it up.
Yes, that's true. But in many cases, when you buy a dealership, even one that has been upgraded into the new fascia and so forth, there's been wear and tear on that, so you figure a little bit of that in. And that's what we can do. What we do at BH Capital is help you as a seller figure all that in, figure what's fair with the pre-qualified buyer.
We've talked about the valuation approach in a typical dealership. What kind of multiples do you generate? How do you calculate it? What are your metrics in figuring out the value of a dealership?
Well, of course, the net profit. We're obviously looking for stores that are generating net profit, although we will help in finding a buyer for a store that's not making money. And if you're not making money right now, you really should sell. Mm-hmm. But the multiples that we're looking at currently are anywhere from 2 to 10.
2 to 10, as high as 10.
Net earnings, depending on the situation, the real estate, what kind of buy is available on the real estate, or what kind of long-term lease is available to the buyer.
Right. And what are some other special factors that can add value to the sale of your dealership?
Obviously the biggest value added is what brand it is, and brands consistently go through different periods of being the hot brand and not so hot brand.
Who is the hottest brand now?
Well, I think that in spite of General Motors with the recalls and everything else, it's a great time to buy or sell a General Motors store. They're coming back. They've got some great product. The products that are being recalled are older models. It's not the newer models. And Ford has always been a great brand and continues to do so. Chrysler's really made a magnificent comeback. And that's a really quality brand, and will be for some time now. Of the imports, I like Nissan stores. They're doing a fantastic job, and they're
doing a good job at marketing.
They've got great leadership.
Yeah. Those are all the old Chrysler guys.
Some of them are. Yeah, some of them that I know. But Kia and Hyundai have done a great job, and the Koreans, and right now, I really think it's a perfect time to sell or to buy a store.
Right. And in terms of the little elements of the value add, what do you really think you can reach back and say, hey, this store has a little extra shine to it. It's got a little added value. It's got something on the metrics of the financial statements that makes it a little more attractive. What are those sorts of things? Is it cash flow? Is it profit? Is it credit? What are all those things that you want to look for?
Well, those things are all three of those are very important: cash flow, credit, profit, obviously. However, one thing that gets overlooked when buying or selling a dealership is the database that dealership has. Until just a few years ago, dealerships did a very poor job of getting email addresses and getting permission to send service notices, coupons, and so forth via email, which obviously is the best way to communicate with customers now, text and email on their cell phone. So I'd say a dealership that even is a smaller store but has a large percentage of email addresses and done a good job of communicating with their customer base, that makes that store a little bit more valuable.
Then. Yeah. The guy that sort of stepped up a little bit more in his technology, the guy that's using the internet maybe a little bit more, he's cutting. Can you really cut your advertising costs by using the internet today?
I don't think there's any doubt about it. The same methods that were working 10 years ago don't work anymore. Newspaper, radio, television, it's a much more fragmented audience than it ever has been. People have the satellite radios, they have satellite television, they don't see the commercials.
Right.
Direct mail still very effective in many cases. Email blasts and text messaging, that's the wave of the future. And if a dealership's done a good job with their CRM and following up on their customer and has a loyal customer base, I think the new buyer can make a smooth transition in communicating and keeping that customer base.
That's fantastic. We talked about our process and that we're going to step in. We're going to gather the documentation. We're going to prepare a due diligence package. We're going to step in and provide evaluation on the dealership. How difficult is it today in terms of looking at documentation within a dealership? Is it better controlled today with automation, with the digital age than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Is it easier to look and analyze at stores today and see what their results of operations are?
I think so, as long as everything's been truthful and you have a audited statement or a reviewed statement, at least by a reputable accounting firm. I think it is easier. Obviously, there's still, methods of...
The old days of just having rentals and rentals, right? Now we've got how many of those companies out there?
Yeah, there's probably about 20 to 25 of them that are doing a great job, and it's no longer just R&R and ADP. There's a lot of other good players in that game, and I think that, they provide as good of a accounting system as Reynolds and Reynolds.
And less expensive.
Well, I think that's probably one of the things that have made those stores more profitable, is adapting to situations like that.
This is like listening to Mr. Goodwrench of the auto industry. You can just wing these questions at him, and he's always going to have an answer. So, Ken, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, George.
This is a great show, informative on this segment of our new product that we're launching. You can find out more about it at bhcapitalltd.com. We'd certainly like you to visit that site. And drill down a little bit more on this new and innovative product. And you could find out more about Ken on that site as well. And we look forward to seeing you again on Just Ask George. Bye-bye.
For more information about George Lovato Jr. and BH Capital, visit bhcapitalltd.com. Check out more episodes of Just Ask George at justaskgeorgeradio.com. Just Ask George is produced by Steve Garth and is a production of BH Capital Ltd. All rights reserved.